the coldest place on Earth, is not just a point on the me, it is where the cold becomes a silent predator. Temperatures can plummet to minus 72 degrees Celsius, and in the most extreme spells, approach minus 75 degrees Celsius. At these levels, the air ceases to be mere air. It becomes an invisible blade. Exposed skin suffers frostbite in mere seconds. Eyelashes freeze together into solid ice. Breath crystallizes into thick white vapor suspended mid-air, and prolonged exposure can cause blood in the veins to begin freezing. A large animal, such as an elephant or rhinoceros, if left outdoors for just 3 hours, would transform into a rigid, lifeless block of frozen flesh, its massive body turned into an unyielding ice sculpture with no trace of life remaining. So how do human beings survive in a place where nature seems determined to erase all existence? This is the story of the small villages in the coldest region of the planet, home to the Yakut and Evenki peoples who have endured across generations. They do not live in the romanticized notion of polar exploration. They live in poverty, scarcity, and unrelenting hardship. Their homes are old, dilapidated, and buried under snow. Their food is raw, fishy, and often difficult to swallow. Their sleep occurs on cold wooden floors beneath threadbare, worn-out furs. Fire, more precious than gold, is their sole source of life. Everything here is a struggle, from eating merely to survive, to staying warm to avoid freezing to death, from moving through deep snow to protecting their herds from the killing cold. Each morning begins in thick darkness, when the sun appears for only a few feeble hours before vanishing again. The air inside the house is so dry and frigid that every breath burns the lungs like needles. People wake shivering beneath layers of old animal hide blankets, frayed and hardened by years of smoke and use. There are no comfortable beds, no soft mattresses, only wooden floors covered with worn reindeer or horse hides, topped with a few heavy, coarse blankets full of the smell of smoke and stale fur. They huddle together, bodies pressed close to share the last remnants of warmth. Many wake in the middle of the night, limbs numb from the cold seeping through the floor, and must sit up to stoke the fire or add another layer of ragged clothing. Sleep is shallow and restless, merely a brief pause between bouts of cold-induced pain and anxiety over the fire dying out. Bodies ache from awkward positions, backs stiff, hands and feet numb. There is no comfort, only endurance to make it to morning. Houses here are not places of refuge or warmth. They are temporary snow tombs. Most are old wooden structures, walls cracked from frost, roofs sagging under tons of accumulated snow. Many were built during the Soviet era and are now rotting, floors icy cold, walls fissured so wind seeps through every gap. Some families still live in traditional yurts, round tents of wood and hides, but the old skins offer little insulation. In winter, snow buries the houses so deeply that the front door disappears. Residents must dig tunnels or paths with shovels or bare hands, sometimes taking hours just to step outside. Inside, the space is cramped, dark, and permeated with the smell of coal smoke and damp fur. No separate rooms exist. Entire families share 1 or 2 spaces, pressed together to retain heat. There is no central heating, no meaningful insulation, only hides and felt nailed to the walls, nearly useless against the wind that whistles through cracks. The air remains dry and piercingly cold despite the fire. Breath condenses into white frost on the ceiling. Every morning, they must chip ice from the windows to see outside. But all they see is an endless expanse of white, devoid of trees or any sign of life. Fire is the most precious thing in daily life. Every flame is life itself. Firewood is cut from distant forests during the brief summer and hauled back, stacked carefully, counted piece by piece like gold. Coal is also scarce and rationed strictly. The small stove is lit at dawn and kept burning all day, but the fire must remain low to conserve fuel. A strong blaze would consume the supply too quickly. When the fire weakens, the room cools rapidly, breathing becomes labored, and bodies begin to shiver. If the fire dies out from lack of fuel or a backdraft from the wind, the entire family risks freezing to death in the night. People often wake in the darkness to check the flames, add a small piece of wood, and ensure it survives. Fire does not merely warm, it melts snow for water, cooks food, dries clothing, and keeps everyone alive. Without fire, there is no life. Thus, firewood and coal are treated as treasures. Losing the fire means losing everything. Food is the hardest battle. Nothing can be cultivated. The ground is permafrost, eternally frozen, so there are no vegetable gardens, no crops, no harvest. Everything depends on hunting and herding, both dangerous and unreliable. Hunters venture into blizzards with rifles that freeze solid, breathing on the metal to thaw it enough to fire, risking their lives for deer, hares, or birds. Reindeer and horse herds scrape lichen from beneath the snow, often starving during lean years. Even domesticated animals suffer. They tremble in storms, thin and frail, their bodies struggling to produce milk or meat. Herding is a luxury. Animals are precious, fed what little lichen they can dig up, and slaughtered only when there is no alternative. Every part is used. Nothing is wasted. Cooking is torment. Fuel, firewood or coal, is more valuable than gold. The stove is small, the fire kept low, and every meal must be prepared quickly to save fuel. The smell of food is often overwhelmed by thick coal smoke that fills the house, stinging eyes and throats. Stroganina, thinly sliced raw frozen river fish, is a daily staple. The smell is intensely fishy, like fresh scales mixed with icy brine. The taste is raw and tangy, sometimes with a metallic edge from blood. Fishermen drill through 2 meters of ice by hand, fingers numb even through gloves, pulling ommel or whitefish from dark water. The fish freezes solid outside in hours. Slicing requires a knife warmed over the stove to prevent breaking, cut lengthwise for crispness. Eaten with salt, it is crunchy yet chewy, refreshing but difficult to swallow for outsiders. It provides omega-3s and vitamin C to fight scurvy, but the raw fishy taste lingers like cold brine on the tongue. Ha'an, raw frozen horse meat from young foals, smells of fresh blood, tastes sweet yet gamey, like cold iron with an earthy aftertaste. The raw texture feels slimy at first, the blood flavor off-putting. Horses endure hardship, they graze frozen lichen. Often malnourished, shivering in blizzards. Slaughter occurs in autumn. Meat cleaned with boiled melted snow, a slow, fuel-intensive process, then frozen outside. Slicing is done indoors with a warmed knife, eaten with raw liver for added iron. It is consumed several times a week when available, but horse meat is rare. Animals are too valuable to slaughter frequently. Ka'an kuyur. Ui. Frozen blood sausage has a pungent smell of raw blood and salt, tastes dense and salty with a slight offal tang that can border on unpleasant, sometimes carrying a faint waste-like note from the intestines. Preparation is grueling. Blood is mixed with scarce flour, stuffed into intestines cleaned minimally with boiled melted snow, then frozen outside. Eaten raw or lightly roasted, it is chewy and iron-rich, essential against anemia. But the primal taste repels many. Offal soup is mine, smells strongly earthy and metallic, with a gamey undertone that some find revolting. Heart, liver, and lungs are chopped and simmered for hours in melted snow water on the stove, fuel rationed tightly. The broth is thick and nourishing, but the organ flavors dominate. Hard flour bread smells dry like baking dust, tastes tough and bland, requiring prolonged chewing. Flour is imported and scarce, mixed with melted snow water, baked on coals. Fuel so precious that loaves are small. Frozen reindeer cheese smells milky and slightly sour, tastes crumbly and fatty. Milk from starving herds is frozen into blocks and shaved thin. Fermented mare's milk, kumis, smells yeasty like sour yogurt, tastes fizzy and slightly alcoholic. Milk from suffering mares is fermented in leather bags, a rare delicacy. Clothing consists of 30 to 40 layers of ragged fur and wool, patched and heavy, creating air pockets for warmth. Hats, boots, and gloves are essential, handmade and repaired nightly. Moving outdoors, slow, deliberate steps through deep snow, fully layered to prevent sweat from freezing. Mornings, houses buried in snow, doors frozen shut, air dry and lung burning. The stove is lit first for warmth, fuel as precious as gold. Bathing is a luxury, once or twice a week, using warm water in a small wooden basin, wiping the body with old cloths. Skin cracks from cold and dryness, protected by animal fat rubs. Outdoor toilet use is torture. Fully layered, trudging through deep snow to a simple wooden shed with a hole dug in the snow, moving quickly to avoid frostbite. At night, or during storms, buckets are used indoors, contents emptied and buried in snow. Labor. Men venture out to check herds, hunt, or chop wood, each task perilous due to blizzards and cracking ice. Movement is slow through deep snow, multiple heavy layers worn, sweat freezing into ice causes illness. Women remain indoors cooking, sewing, caring for children, all amid coal smoke and cold. Children play briefly outside in layers, then study in cramped houses. Every activity is slow, conserving energy and fuel. Health challenges are constant. Medicine is scarce. Frostbite, scurvy, pneumonia, and depression are common. No nearby hospitals, only self-treatment with animal fat and dried herbs. Many endure pain in silence.